Hey everybody, I wanted to welcome you to today's Austin Agile at Scale meetup for September. I've got a fantastic topic lined up, but first I want to run those first time participants through a little bit about Agile Austin and what we do and some of our upcoming events. So really quickly, our mission, we love to connect people, foster professional growth, and just communicate with each other about Agile topics. It's worth noting that we are a 501c6 nonprofit organization. And so all that we do is, you know, uh, kind of publicly available in terms of our financials and stuff. So we have a board, and I am actually a part of that board. I'm the chief technology officer, and you can see the rest of our board that was elected a few months ago, and our terms end in, I guess, around the Mayish time frame of next year. So excited to be working with these great people. We meet on a regular basis, kind of discuss the health of the organization, and yeah, it's great. And we've got the board at agileaustin.org email address if you want to get in touch with us. Shout out to all of our sponsors. Retrospect is being platinum sponsor. Ad Meliora Coaching, WellSky, and 321 Gang. I wanted to throw a specific thank you to Ad Meliora Coaching, which recently re-upped their sponsorship for us. And so that really makes our events possible, like this one today. So if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, just reach out to us, contact at agileaustin.org. There's also a page on our website kind of listing out all the levels and tiers we have available. Do a lot of promotion for our sponsors. So, and then if you want, we're also sustained by our membership. It is something that actually has not been raised through to account for inflation. It's been $35 for quite a long time. So one of those few things that you can actually get that has not changed in price. So we have a Slack community, we have member portal. You can also become a board member, and we also have special trainings and discounts throughout the year, and got a very special event coming up we'll talk about shortly. But our special interest groups, we also have Agile Coaching, this one, Agile at Scale, very vibrant book club that has continued through the pandemic and many years, countless books that they've read. I've attended a few in the past, really good discussions happen there. Our president also leads the Leaders SIG, and so there's another upcoming one. You can check out our meetup page, meetup.com/Agile Austin for more information there. Lean Kanban still happens as well, and Scrum Master too. But I really wanted to focus really quickly today on our upcoming conference. So we will have a hybrid conference, both in person in Austin, Texas, at a brand spanking new event center up near Austin's new second downtown, the Domain. And it's a research facility that is on the University of Texas at Austin campus. And so we're really looking forward to it. I know the committee that's putting this on is really excited about the venue. We haven't been at that venue before, but it's very conveniently located for many people in Austin. But since it's hybrid, we'll also have a virtual option as well. So if you're planning on attending, it's right around the same time as South by Southwest. So you can come for keep Austin Agile and then stay for South by Southwest. So then, South by Southwest these days is not just music. There's movies, there is education, and also, other technology things that happen as well around that same time. So lots of great stuff. You can check out their website for more info, and I'm sure we'll be doing some cross promotion efforts as a result. Back to the SIG today. We like to talk about scaling topics, and we've got a really great one for you today. Leland, my co-facilitator, you haven't seen him in the last few months, but I think he'll be able to facilitate next month's meetup. So look forward to seeing him again. But I joined in 2020. I've kind of been helping kind of carry things on when he's unavailable. So upcoming in October, we're going to be talking about 3 easy steps to easier scaling with Colleen Johnson. And then the big topic du jour, artificial intelligence for Agilists in November of 2023. Are you ready? Scott Ambler. And then, of course, we take a break in December, and we will look forward to seeing you in 2024. So for today's topic, we have Peter sorry, can you?
Wilmer, yeah, all
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
I tried to get that right earlier, and I did, so I apologize. But he's going to be talking to us today about optimizing flow development value stream by applying advanced value stream mapping techniques. Tons of experience, and really looking forward to today's presentation. One final note, Leland and I, you can contact us, leland.newsom@agileaustin.org or ben.rogers@agileaustin.org, and we will help you out. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Peter.
Ben, thank you very much. So I think you also will a little bit look at the chat if there are some questions coming. So if they're immediately, let's say, important for understanding what we do, we can cover them directly. If it's more a discussion thing, I would postpone that to the end and have the overall discussions then there. So I think I have to share my screen so that you can see what I can see here. And I hope this is the right one here. So which screen can you see?
That
You
works.
see, yeah, it looks good. Open text presentation.
Open text, yeah, very, very, very good. Okay, so then let's start. Ben already told about the title. I think no introduction necessary. You have had that already, and it was in the invite. So let's let the content speak here. I think that's more interesting than my biography or certifications I have here. So what we are going to do today has mainly 3 parts. So we have to somehow start with value streams and value stream management, because that is more or less the topic we are talking, and we want that everybody is about on the same page here. But then really going into the issues with the current approaches and how to overcome them, right? Look on what we are doing today and why this might not be the end, or why is this not enough. And then the third part, the biggest one here then, is how to systematically optimize your development value streams for that, because I think if you're a practitioner or if you're in the need to get faster, get better quality, this is the part you might be interested most. So what is a value stream, right? So we have a couple of discussions in the industry for that. I think Rogers and Shook is very well known. Whenever there is a product for the customer, there is a value stream. The challenge lies in seeing it. Yeah. So if you wonder if your company has value streams, yes, it has. Yeah, it's just a question. Yeah, are they identified? Are they mapped, and so on and so on. Then there is another nice definition from James Martin. A value stream is a series of interconnected processes needed to deliver a product or service. Yeah, could also serve as well here. And then we have just an example of a value stream description. You might have seen that before. I think I'm not the first one presenting that one here. However, there's interesting discussions going on. Is this really a value stream? Because if you, for example, want to measure lead time for that one, payment is so flexible, right, that this value stream could take years there, and optimizing overall lead time might not make too much sense. And that means we have here, when we look about value stream mapping and management, very great techniques. Yeah. We have to look how we scope them, how we apply them. Yeah, what makes most sense of that? Do customer journeys support what we want to achieve? Yeah, so it's not that it's just straightforward, and that leads me already to the types of value streams. So SAFe has a certain definition. Yeah, maybe these definitions, as with models, are all wrong, but useful. Yeah, in some extent. And so we have here this to distinguish between operational value stream and development value streams. Yeah, if we look more from the business side, we look at the operational value streams because that is where we more or less make the money, but the development value streams support these operational value streams. The VSM consortium has a little bit a different definition, as you can see here. Yeah, a digital value stream is a series of activities that produces a digital product, platform, or service, beginning with an idea and finishing with the delivered customer outcome. And the core types there is core and supporting. SAFE has in the development value stream some patterns are identified, like fulfillment, manufacturing, software, product, supporting. But in a lot of cases, a value stream does not come in an isolated way. It's more in a bigger context here. And I worked with a medical device a manufacturer, and you can see here the main value stream they are supporting is the intake or the hospital process there. And then for this diagnose and scanning part, there's a value stream to build that device. Yeah, but there's a lot of other value streams that support that. And so it really depends on the scope. Yeah, and often it's very helpful to really understand the overall context in where you operate these kind of things. Yeah, but this is not the main topic of the talk. I just want a little bit to look into that. And then we have value stream management. Yeah, so here a definition: value stream management is a systematic approach to optimize the development value streams, yeah, or the flow of these value streams. And it's mainly, let's say, based on lean principles and lean techniques here that we have. And it's more or less that if we just identify value stream and map them, right, this is a very singular thing, yeah, but how do we continuously optimize these kind of things? And we will come in a second exactly to that. First, I want to show you here some data about value stream management from the Value Stream Management Consortium. And you can see it's like the state of DevOps, right? A survey that asks practitioners and experts where they are with that. And you see that a lot already have started somehow with first activities, yeah, in such a value stream management, so to say, roadmap. However, we have to understand usually only people participate who already are somehow understanding value stream management, or are in value stream management. So that means it's not representative for the whole industry, but for the ones who already have some stake into that. And there you can see somehow a lot are on their journey. But if you look and inspect and adapt, there's only 8% of the respondents, yeah, who really are with a full cycle and have somehow maybe made it to an systematic or automated optimization of their value streams here. Yeah. When we talk about development value streams, we usually talk about software or cyber physical systems. And so the questions we have here are not new, right? So we have them, I think, at least latest since the 1968 NATO hosted conference in Garmisch in Germany, where we said we have to get better with software engineering and building software. So the questions are still valid here. We just got better in how we answer this kind of questions. And that is something I think where Goldratt contributed very well with his theory of constraints, and stating any improvement on a non-bottleneck is a waste of time and money, right? That means traditionally software organizations or also cyber physical organizations somehow spend their improvement all across the board, not really knowing where finally the biggest bang for the buck is to achieve there. Okay, when we get a little bit more systematic here and ask the question, what is the issue, right? Usually when you do some workshop, initially look at your customer or at your organization at a certain value stream, and it comes down to development value stream. Usually there are four main areas where the biggest bottleneck is, where you maybe should invest first. It could be from idea to backlog. That is the whole topic of innovation. Then backlog prioritization is another one. Then from backlog to delivery, right, the real development of the software, but also then from delivery to value realization. We see that a lot, especially in enterprise software, there is a new version maybe every 3 months, but it's a 2 years project to get a customer to get the new version productive in their environment. And so the value realization takes way longer than it takes to produce the software. And that is one of these big reasons why people go to SaaS environments where the upgrades happen somehow automatically, and are more or less on a frequent basis up to continuous delivery. So that you don't have that problem with value realization in that, let's say, dimension as you have it if you have these risky, expensive, long-term projects to get a new version of your software in production. So when we now look a little bit into value stream mapping, we have usually something like that. We have some kind of idea, maybe a feature request that goes then through these certain steps, and then we have another value increment and repeat on that. And the first benefit is learning to see, as Rothman and Shook say, so that you really have a picture of that, how value creation end-to-end works, so that you can optimize end-to-end. A lot of systems thinking is in that here, to create alignment across all stakeholders, so that you don't have this conflict that they want to invest in different parts of the pipeline because they think this is the most important one, not understanding that the bottleneck finally is the one that defines the overall outcome. Provide insights to optimize value delivery, make progress of implemented improvements visible. This is also when you have a measurement framework put together, that you can anticipate that. Maybe to make that a little bit more clear. So this is from the Safe DevOps training or workshop, where you see, okay, there you start individually for a certain development value stream to look at the steps there and try to put some numbers on that about process time, delay time, percentage completed and accurate in the picture here. So to understand what is your overall performance. So this visibility, people start talking. I've seen that a lot of times, that they say, oh my God, why are we doing that here? So that puts a lot of, let's say, work on the stage behind. Not necessary if we do a little bit more on the one before. Bottlenecks are identified. You can start with that. It's a great thing, right? But it's just the beginning, and that is where the real presentation starts now, by, let's say, having summarized a little bit what's going on today in the industry with these things. And that is, what is the issue with the basic approach, right? And there is a couple of things we will look into, and also how to overcome them. So first point, bigger point, is first insights are beneficial but guesstimates, right? If you do such a value stream mapping, you have a bunch of people who together somehow guess about the numbers. Maybe they can measure something, but there is no real-time insight on how things are going, right? Is it the same problem this week as it was last week, or is the bottleneck somewhere else? You can't answer that when you do such a value stream mapping, and it's very expensive to get all these people together. So you don't want to do that too often. And so it would be really nice to have this data available in an automated fashion. On the other hand, it's not just features, right? You have different kinds of features, as we will see. You have end labels, stories, defects, and for them, that could all be different, and the numbers might look different. We will also see in a second that an average cycle time is not representative. You need more insights to really understand what's going on. Yeah, and then finally, really this key question: how can we continuously measure improvements without too much effort? Yeah. And after we have then identified the bottlenecks, yeah, there's another thing. Identifying the bottlenecks does not always tell you how to solve it. So that's where I want to give you a little bit more insights on, yeah, how can you solve bottlenecks in your implementation. And that is why my thesis is here: we need complementary approaches to what we already have to be successful, to be somehow efficient and effective in what we are doing. So first observation is, when you look what people do today and they do their mapping, yeah, is the really covering end-to-end the process? In a lot of cases, no. Yeah, so because maybe some people are missing, they are not used to do these kind of things. Yeah, there, and you just get a certain a piece of it. So that means you have to look, is this really complete, or is there a little bit more? And then if you want to measure the individual stages, for example, you need somehow also to understand the definition of done, because if everybody just moves the status or puts things to the next station when he thinks it feels good now, you also do not get some trusted measurement. You can get just some guesstimates out of that. And so when you try to establish a measurement system, you have to walk through these steps to get what we really want, right? The other one is, can you really measure that? If you look at our value stream management tools, application lifecycle management tools, often there is a status model like new, ready, in progress, and done. Yeah, but that does not mean that you now can draw such a map and get the numbers that you need for the individual stages. So if you want to measure that, you somehow need a status model for your items, or any other way of measuring these kind of things. And even if you measure that, right, you still cannot really trust the data. So because some people do not understand that it's important, so they do it whenever they want to do it, or they do it not at all, as we will see. And here, in my practical experience, you need a little bit more insights. So what we have done for our organization is that we went through the previous steps and really try to measure that. And we also combined that with our source code management system here. In that case, it was GitHub Enterprise there, and connected that to our ALM tool, so that we really can get insights, right? So it's a little bit hard to read maybe, but it's the necessary data to really get the insights you want to have, right? You have the feature, so it's a real world feature here. I just obfuscated here some of the confidential information. Yeah, you see here estimated story points. When you look when it was finished, it was more than double. Cycle time was 20.5 days. Yeah, there's more information like how many committers, how many teams were involved in that. 28 commits, so it was just 2 people who contributed source code to that. So from a swarming point of view, when you have 4 teams, this is also maybe something you want to look into. But let's get back to cycle time. Cycle time is 20.5 days. But that is not true, right? If we really look what happens here in the graph below, and the graph below shows you a timeline, and it shows you, the dotted line shows you the stories when they were created, and when this line gets solid, the stories got into progress, and the same is for defects here and some other types. And we also have here the status model. Here is ready for R&D, and then there is in progress. But you see, in progress was somewhere done in February, while the first commit for the feature was already in December, right? So the counting from the tool, started way too late, and so the real cycle time was not 20 days. The real cycle time was 2 months for that. So just by analyzing the telemetry data that you have with your software factory, or with your telemetry in DevOps, however you want to name that. And so be careful what you measure. Yeah, as long as you do not have the insights what it really means. Yeah, the numbers could be wrong, and usually you want to have that real time. Yeah, so that you can go to the system and drill down for each individual feature there for doing that. We will do an example in a second for that. Yeah, but what you want is really to measure this end-to-end performance here, right? And the tooling is providing you the data. You can set the filters. You can do it for one. You can do it for a certain time period, be it a release, a planning increment, a sprint, so that you really have the insights into that. Yeah, because what we observed here, we have a certain flow time for our system here. Yeah, but again, when we go into the details and look at the real data of what we have done here, right? So this is a large solution, safe implementation, where one planning increment has 319 features. There, and the average flow time of the feature is 40 days. But if you look at the distribution here, right, there's about 15 features that have a cycle time of 0, right? What happened here? Yeah, more or less at the end of the PI, maybe somebody went there and said, oh, yeah, that was also done. Yeah, and then it was put in progress and in done, and then you get zero cycle time for that. Yeah, or if you want to predict something, well, a certain feature, yeah, in average 40 days, but there are features that take 400 days, right? For predictability, this is not so easy, yeah. So that means one foot in the fire and one foot in the ice gives you a comfortable average temperature, but may not be very healthy. Yeah, so I think that is more or less the situation. And you can do some more additional, let's say, analysis here, for example, by measuring flow time by size of feature. And we see here that most of that is somehow linear, but there are some outliers that you have. And there it could be very helpful to understand, yeah, what makes this cycle time of features. And one perspective of that is, when you look here, you see here the components that get integrated then on system level, staging, production. And you see here feature A could be done by one agile release train. So that means there is not much dependencies in such a setup here. So they can deliver much quicker than if we have a feature like feature B, where we have 2 agile release trains, then a supplier involved in that. And we have, again, a specific integration work that is maybe done by the system team or another team that have to do that. So there's much more dependencies in such a feature. And so understanding maybe upfront, who will be touched by these features will give you much more insights on how long it really will take. The other thing that it will this tell you is somehow, do we have the right team topology, the right organizational setup, or do we have way too much dependencies in the system because there are too many different teams and organizations somehow involved to deliver. So that was a little bit insights in when you look at value stream management, trying to measure, trying to get insights for that. The other part is now when we look at eliminating bottlenecks. Yeah, so I already said identifying the bottleneck does not necessarily tell you how to solve it. And so I think there is one extremely underestimated and not really understood principle here from the 3 ways of DevOps. I have here the quote from Gene Kim here. The goal of almost any process improvement initiative is to shorten and amplify feedback loops so necessary corrections can be continually made. Yeah, this is a great sentence. It's absolutely true from my experience, but often it's not really understood what it really means. Yeah, and so I make a thought experiment with you. So we have here some stages from development to test in staging, and right, so what happens? We have seen that in this previous analysis, there's continuous, let's say, check-ins. So we have a lot of feedback cycles in that process. And I just said, okay, if you need 20 feedback cycles, for such a process, and we have here in scenario 1, yeah, build and deploy to system testing, yeah, is done once per day. Yeah, a build breaks 2 of 5 and deploy fails 1 of 5. Yeah, that means we have 2 testable builds per week. That means if we have 20 feedback cycles, it takes us 10 weeks to deliver the feature. Yeah. If we now increase, yeah, the amount of build and deploy to system tests from 1 to 5 per day, yeah, because usually the bottleneck is not the developers writing the code, it's getting the feedback. Here. That means the same amount of build breaks, same amount of deploys. Yeah. Then we have 10 testable builds per week. So that means that we are done in 2 weeks. So we have reduced cycle times by from 10 to 2 weeks. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And if we then also look at the reliability of our builds and the deploys and can get a little bit more reliability into that, yeah, we can get 15 testable builds per week, and so we come to a lead time or delivery time of the feature of 7 days, right? And this is exactly the power. So the conclusion is you have 3 parameters to look at: finding defects in earlier stages, because in earlier stages means the feedback cycle is shorter. Yeah, you get the feedback earlier. We will just look at that in a second. Yeah, increase frequency and speed of the pipeline. Yeah, that means you can do more integrations per day on that. Yeah, and the last one, increase the pipeline reliability, because then more integrations and more feedback, more cycles make it through the system. So these are the 3 parameters, yeah, we have to look into. First one, feedback cycle times per stage. I always say know your enemy. So there are different types of errors and you can find them in different stages. So the most straightforward is if you have an IDE, yeah, and you have static code analysis implemented in your IDE, you have local builds, unit tests, code coverage at the developer desk. Yeah, the developer gets feedback in seconds to minutes, right? So we have extremely short cycles in that. However, we can only find errors of commission there because the developer will not find out what he forgot to do or if he did something wrong on that. Yeah. So the second one is then that you do some kind of component development. Yeah, there usually the component builds maybe every hour, yeah, or whatever it is in your scenario, and then integration tests of bringing all the components together maybe every 4 hours. There, on the component level, you can also find errors of omission, because there you test against the specification somehow. Yeah, so you will find if something is missing. And in the integration, when you bring things together, you find interface and integration issues, yeah, these kind of defects. And then as soon as you come to system test, when you have a running system, yeah, then you can start to find behavioral issues like non-functional requirements, timing issues, ambiguity, clarity issues on that, right? But you see, it takes just longer, yeah, to get to that stage, yeah, because of the length of the feedback cycles we have. And then in staging, finally, yeah, dependent on how close you are to your production environment, you can find environmental and external system integration issues, data and usage pattern related issues. Yeah, you can't find that earlier, right? So you should focus then on that stage on that, and you should not find a lot of errors of commission or omission, yeah, in that late phases here. We see here an example, same print out, just another feature from another team here, where you see there were not a lot of feedback cycles at the beginning. So it's more waterfallish development of the feature, as there was a lot of development here at the beginning. You see the code commits here at the beginning, and then only, let's say, after 2/3, yeah, of the development, the first defects are found, at least the ones that are tracked in the system. Maybe there are others found before. That is not what we have then here. Yeah, and that means we have a very long hardening phase for that, because we started so late. Yeah, and the cycles get longer because you find it just then in one of the later stages of testing, and that makes you slow. There would be other things that you can see here, that we have a lot of different committers. So it looks there is more swarming in that, means maybe also more collaboration. Yeah, but what we do not see is if all these committers belong to the same team or different teams. So that would be also somehow a pretty interesting piece of information. So how do you get there? So what we have done many years ago already, we started with pipeline mapping. Yeah, so this is an enterprise product with maybe 100 million lines of code, maybe a little bit more. In that, yeah, where we started with the team to just map the pipeline, yeah, same as you do map on a higher level development value streams, yeah, or value streams, but really going down to the individual components, integrations, testing stages, and things like that, so that you get an understanding about the whole thing. Then you have a lot of suppliers that you have here. Just a second. Hey, Mama. Yeah. Sorry for that. My daughter just wanted to ask a question. So that means we have a lot of suppliers here that are not directly, let's say, have an in where you do not have a direct influence on, yeah, and some shared components and subsystems, yeah, that need to be integrated. So when you do these kind of activities, you find a lot of things, yeah, already. So that's very valuable on that. Here questions like, why is this component so large and takes so long to build? Yeah, why does this step take so long? Yeah, why is this quality gate not really working well? Why do we not have more tests on an earlier stage on that, and then we have to find the defects much later on that? Yeah, so just with this exercise that takes a couple of hours, you already get a very long backlog for improvements for your pipeline, to get faster on that. But remember the system we had before. Yeah, best is if you have the telemetry to really understand what's going on in that. A more conceptual view on that looks like that, right? So you have your lower level components that get integrated into bigger components that gets integrated then into system testing, where you might have stubs or mocks to use. Then you get to staging, where you really integrate with all the other environments, and then finally you have production. And interesting is this small, oops, sorry, go back here, this small pie chart here. This small pie chart is saying that at this stage of testing here, right, that is staging, yeah, 55% of the defects we find here could have been found earlier. That has a huge impact, right, on our cycle times and also on the quality, yeah, as we will see a little bit later. So that means we have to look how we can shift left these kind of things here to get more successful on that. So if we go a little bit closer into these boxes here, right? What you can see here is for each component or next stage, we just make it a little more transparent how often we can find or how often we can really deliver a component that is consumable by the next stage. So it does not mean that the build run through and that the test run through. It does really mean the tests at this stage indicated that it's ready for consumption for the next one. Yeah, and so we can find, yeah, the components that really are lacking behind here, yeah, where we do not get often enough something to integrate, or where the quality is weak, because we should focus, yeah, on these components and on the teams that deliver this focus, and maybe send a SWAT team there, so that we really, yeah, improve on there, and not just say, okay, let's do a quality initiative for everybody. Yeah, even if maybe 80% of the organization is not the issue at that point in time, right? And then you can make somehow a dashboard that shows you that for each of the components. Here, this real data. Here you see on the one hand how often you had a green build per week here. So the first component really looks great, yeah, but the second one you see Yeah, we get rarely one green build a week out of that one. Yeah, the third one, yeah, it's a little bit a mix. Also, a lot of let's say fails there. And then we could look also at the found defect types. Yeah, does the shift left work, or is there too many defects escaping to later stages in that? And also, let's say, looking at the backlog helps us to understand if the team is catching up fast enough on the fixes, because if people depend on the fixes in later stages, and you build new versions but they are not fixed, then you do not get the feedback there. Then they fix this defect maybe very late, and then there is another issue found based on that. You want to release, but you can't because now you have a showstopper. Right, and so monitoring this and understanding this and taking the right actions will help you a lot. So the team I have, it's a real continuous delivery team, and therefore, I say if your pipeline is fast enough, you very likely have no or very small defect backlog. So why is that? The easy answer, for that is, if it really takes only minutes to fix a defect and get the feedback if it worked or not, right? Then each developer will immediately take a defect. It's not a big effort. But if it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get the feedback, if your defect fix was there, you have a very high WIP on the one hand. And on the other hand, nobody really dares to do too much changes in the system because the cycles are so slow to get, let's say, all of that right again will just take too long. And therefore, your backlogs will increase. And then you have all these nice side effects that you spend more time on discussing which defects to fix instead of just getting rid of all of them. And that has also tooling issues, and we need tools that can really support a backlog of hundreds of defects and where you can prioritize things. So it's a real rat hole here if you are not able to reduce here. So from insights to improvements, just a short, let's say, summary of a few things here. So improvements should have a visible impact, right? So if we really end-to-end understand our processes, we can somehow already anticipate what a certain change, how it would impact the system, and therefore, let's say, prioritize our improvement backlog really for the ones that have the highest benefits for us. So each improvement should have this measurable hypothesis so that you also can see how good you are with this. And sequential systems assume a single improvement to remove the bottleneck. Complex pipelines may require multiple improvements in parallel, right? So Reinertsen, I think, has put that with some nice examples about fighting a fire. That maybe one measure will not be enough. There, that you'd need 2 or 3 to really get the fire under control. It's the same thing. And understand and monitor capacity allocation to control the system. Here, that means you should know where you invest, right? Because and I think Mick Kirsten has in his project to product book also some nice examples for that. That if you know where you invest, for example, where in tech debt or whatever, you also see the consequences of what you do. And therefore you can make better decisions where to invest. Mick Kirsten has 4 different types. We used here 7 different types that was more feasible, but you have to figure out what are the right types in your development that helped you most in that. And that will help you to make much better decisions. And we all want to make fact-based decisions and not gut feel decisions there, and also want to understand if our decisions were right or wrong by looking how things evolved over time. With that, I conclude here that we have some time for discussions here. So value stream mapping gives end-to-end insights, right? But move from guesstimates to instant and hard data over time. So make your progress measurable, design, configure, integrate your tools accordingly, move towards fact-based decision making. We talked about that. And use advanced techniques to get better insights, as I've shown you some of them, right? There was not enough time to show, let's say, that there is much more. Then very important, shorten feedback cycles, right? We have seen these feedback cycles more or less define yeah, about your lead times you have in your development. And then finally, balance between production capacity and new feature for the right investment decisions for sustainable value delivery. That's it. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward for this discussion here and your experience in these things. And if you are interested in further readings or some videos, here are some suggestions where you could look into. Ben,
Thank
are you there?
I am here. Thank you,
Yeah.
Peter. A fantastic presentation. Yes, we have had a very lively
Uh,
discussion going on in the chat, and I will
uh,
go back to the very beginning of the question. So,
mhm.
to Peter's point about excessively long lead times, should loan value streams be split into loan provision and loan collection?
Well, I think that is not something that deserves a generic answer, right? So it depends on what are you trying to do, what is let's say your goal here, and it's modeling, right? All of this is modeling, and you have to model things in the way that it helps you to answer your questions or solve your challenges. That means for the one it's good to split, for the other it might not be good to split because maybe it's a critical handover or whatever. Yeah, or how is the team topology looking at? So I'm a big fan of context. Yeah, context. Yeah, look at it, measure it, understand what works best for you, and not looking, yeah, what have others done here.
Fair enough. So, Joel asks, what is a quality story versus a defect in your world?
Well, so this is how people have definitions for certain work items, right? A story is on the team level, what you have in your team backlog there, and describes maybe some user story. So that means it has some end user visibility, but it could also be something else. A quality story, I don't like it too much. Our organization is using that term, right? It has to do with some specific testing activities there, and a defect is something you have to fix, right? Because you have found something software anomaly there. You could all call that work items in the team backlog if you're more happy with that. Yeah. If you want to distinguish, feel free to do that. Yeah. As that context. Yeah. What works for what team? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, well, I don't want to
Uh,
speak for Joel. I
uh,
haven't seen if he's still on the call. We'll
uh,
give a brief pause to see. Okay. I do see, we'll switch over to a quick live question. I see Craig has his hand raised.
yes.
So
Great.
go.
Live question.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. Definitely could see it put a lot of work into this, and um, for such a large, complex system, you need that depth of going to those details, and it's very quantitative and super appreciate that. My challenge is that, and it's all about context, right? So my challenge is, as a coach, I'm often asked questions like, okay, how are we going to enter the California market and for an academic? And that includes, what does the marketing team need to do to get us there? The legal requirements that need to be negotiated, the new regulations that need to be complied with, insurance requirements, getting the sales efforts lined up, implementing new privacy controls in the software that need to be developed. So it's, how do we herd the cats of IT is certainly a part of it, but there's all these other things. I imagine the same thing applied to the system you were looking at. There was way more stuff, even then beyond what you were looking at. There was all these other teams working. And so my concern is that while I love that kind of analysis, I'm concerned about local optimization, where I'm doing some great stuff over here, but we're still way delayed because the legal team hasn't got the compliance in place. So everything we did, we optimized everything, was awesome, and full stop, because we don't comply with the legal stuff or the insurance or the sales or all the other teams. How does, have you used, I guess my question would be, have you used value stream mapping or other techniques for the larger context there that I alluded to.
Yes, definitively. So I had to focus in this presentation, right, mainly on from backlog to delivery, right? That was most of the techniques I have shown, because I saw that a lot of companies exactly struggled there and somehow lacking this mindset of shortened feedback cycles, yeah, and defect types and things like that. But for each of these blocks you see here, yeah, there's different answers. It's a completely different domain, right? We are talking, and I did not even have here governance as a isolated one. Maybe I should add that, yeah, here, yeah. And yes, so it would be a different presentation to look into that. That's why I started with this picture, because I had some engagements from a big bank where they said our development is too slow. But when we looked at that, yeah, we saw that 60% of the time was consumed from idea to backlog. Yeah, and another 20% was consumed till there was a decision what to make in the backlog. So that means in this case, maybe your development is not the bottleneck, right? Then you have really to look into how can we get faster, yeah, in our ideation, yeah, and how can we make quicker decisions. Yeah, completely different story, different people usually involved in that. Yeah, happy to share more, but not for this presentation. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. There is more than what I've shared here. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Peter. So going back to the chat, Fred asks, when you introduced new issue types in your ALM, did you run into any resistance?
Well, it's not that you introduce anything new just in your system. You work with the teams, right? So usually you do a workshop with them, you decide together with them about it's their system, right? And so it's not that you introduce something, but you agree together with the team, yeah, on what you need. And then when it really gets large, so if we talk about 5,000, 10,000 developers or so, yeah, then you come into this rat hole of standardization, right? So because you cannot buy for each development team an extra ALM tool, and you cannot run a different process for each and every of them, right? And then you have to think about meta models and sub states, yeah, that teams have still the flexibility to measure their progress, but you can still somehow do some organizational, yeah, or cover some organizational needs. Yeah, that's a really thin line here when you run something like a software factory. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks. So, and then let's see. Tim had asked who contributes to the VSM design building.
So VSM design, VSM in regards to value stream mapping or value stream management?
Mapping. So
to the
I saw,
mapping.
yeah, you had one, you know, I just didn't know when you do something, and again, maybe it's the scale or the size of this, but, you know, I was just wondering, like, when you begin to do a value stream map, who do you bring, you know, who do you invite? Who's part of this?
Yeah, so what I usually do is I start with the key stakeholders, do some empathy interviews. Yeah, what is really the problem? What is the problem to solve? Yeah, who do we need to involve in that? So this is all pre-activities before you go in such a workshop. Yeah, understanding the organizational setup there, talk to certain people, what they think about it. And then you are prepared to go in this workshop and having the right people in there. Does that answer the question? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Good question, Tim. So I think that was most of the questions in the chat. I did want to go back to a comment though from Joel and get your thoughts on it, Peter. He says org cycle time is almost always gated by review and handoff waiting time. If you take the large view of the process, yet most everyone wants to focus on the process blocks. Been true for years. So what are your thoughts on that?
Let me understand the question. So is it in the chat? I'm not sure if I really, it was a long one, right? At
Yeah,
what time was that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little ways back, around 1234, but I think the essence of this is Joel's just observing that in his experience, the review and handoff waiting time can many times be the largest bottleneck in any set of processes.
Yeah, that is definitively true. So from my point of view, think about how do you review things, right? Maybe you don't need a review if you do pair work or mob programming or some other technique, in that. And handoffs, you can often solve with the right team topology, and the right team setup. So that is also something, if you have too long and too costly handoffs, maybe you should look in your organizational setup, if this is really organized around value or organized in silos, and then it really gets difficult, because usually silos have their own political agenda, and often people have to serve different value streams. So that means if you serve 5 value streams, usually 4 have to wait. So you have already built a system, that includes waiting time for others, losing time with context switches and all over. So in that case, really, if this is the issue, I would look into my organizational setup.
Fair enough. So we're getting pretty close to time. I think we got time for one more question. I think we've hit everything in the chat. If you had one in the chat and I haven't hit it, feel free to ask it now, or if there are any live questions. Anybody have any more questions? Okay, well, if no one else has questions, I do have one quick one. We did something similar at a place I worked at, and we had found that features were shipping to production, but they were actually behind A/B tests, and it took a long time to actually ramp those features up, and found tons of bottlenecks in that process, which actually sped things up. Have you ever focused on things that like that, where it's in production but not actually released, to stamp bottlenecks out?
Well, I think first of all, usually you go quickly to production, have feature toggles to get earlier feedback, right? Yeah, that's usually the purpose of that, so that you can develop feature quickly and get feedback quickly for that. So not exactly sure then what you want to emphasize on that. Well, what's
it's
the
mostly just a
question there?
question of if you had experienced it, had any
Yeah.
experience with that, of stamping things out in the arena of it's in production but not actually live. It's taking a long time to get live for customers. Like sometimes A/B tests don't actually get to a statistical significance, especially in low traffic environments.
On the one hand, I think there are two things that came to my mind here. One is, if you expose that, you can gradually expose that to a certain audience, right? If you have the right architecture, so that you can get fast feedback. The other one is that you have the telemetry, right? That shows you if these features are really used or not.
Yep. No, makes sense.
Also the combination of the two, right? If you gradually expose that, but you have to find people who are willing, right, to test that. And I have often seen, especially in enterprise software, that it's hard to find a customer who is willing to spend the time to look at that and give you the feedback. So that means you need product managers somehow that have the right relations or find the right incentive for the customer to spend that time.
Totally makes sense. So Peter, we are running short on time. So again, thank you for the presentation. I did want to leave a couple minutes for you. How can people get in touch with you? And what do you, anything that you would like to promote?
Well, not much. So you can find me on LinkedIn, right? I think that's the easiest way to approach there. I thought that the LinkedIn is below, or I can paste that, but it will recognize my picture there. On the other hand, if you want more, so today is more or less my last day at OpenText. I've built my own company with a few of my partners here. Yeah, and so if you want to reach out for that, yeah, let us know. Yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations on that.
Yeah,
And
that was not planned when I accepted 3 months ago that presentation.
well, tons of people have said thank you in the chat. They really
Mhm.
appreciate how you've distilled some complex topics here that you've presented on today. So wanted to thank you for your time. I wanted to thank the audience for their participation. It's been a great session. And we will have a recording up on YouTube within the next few days of this session. And then Peter, you and I can back channel offline and figure out a way to get the slides back to the meetup page, because there's been a couple of requests.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
So, okay,
Okay, it
excellent.
was a pleasure. Yeah, and thank you for listening. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much, Peter, and everyone take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next month.
Thank you. Bye.
See y'all. Bye-bye.